Hello and thanks for joining me. You know, you hear a lot of landscape photography vloggers talking about shooting local. Well, today I'm shooting extremely local because one of the images I'm after is one of my own house. Now, this first image was inspired by the lovely Mrs. G. She'd been out for a walk in our locality, and as she was heading home, she walked along this path between these beautiful dry rushes. And as she spotted our house up there, she took an image on her iPhone, which she showed me when she got home. And I thought, do you know what? I should do that one properly. Now, the great thing about this beautiful reed bed that I'm stood in at the moment is it's the perfect time of year to shoot it. In the summer, these reeds are bright green and frankly not very inspiring. But at this time of year, it's late February, they look perfect. And with the path winding up between them and a perfect leading line up to the house, I thought it would make quite a nice image. So let me talk you through all of the settings that I'm using on this particular image. I don't normally go into full detail, but I have been asked by a few commenters lately to do a bit more detail. And whilst I don't want to do that every time, because a lot of people kind of understand what I'm up to, there will be people out there for whom hopefully this will be helpful. So first of all, let me talk about my composition. Obviously, I've got the leading line of the path, the way it winds its way up through the reeds, and that's fundamental to the composition. But I don't want to lose the house and have it too far away in the background. So what that means is I do have a relatively tight zoom on it. I'm zoomed in at 29mm on this particular camera system, which would equate to about 60mm on a full frame system. So it's certainly not wide angle. Now, I've got a 0.6 soft graduated filter on, and I'm not going to have much sky in my composition, but I do want to just control the clouds a little bit so there's a little bit of definition and it's not too bleached out. I've got it at a slight angle because the reeds on this side, on the right hand side of the frame, are slightly higher than the left hand side. So by having that line across this way, I avoid having the heads of the reeds on this side darkened down too much. They are darker than the stems, so it doesn't matter if they're darkened slightly. The next consideration is aperture. I've set my aperture to f8, and the reason for that is I wanted a fast enough shutter speed so that things aren't too blurred, because there is a bit of a breeze, and of course these reeds waft about in the breeze as you'd imagine. But I actually don't want them frozen solid. I do want to represent the fact that they're moving around a little bit. And so in order to achieve that, a shutter speed of about 1/100th of a second allows for just a little bit of movement as the wind comes across. All of this is set up by using manual settings, and I'm focusing about 1/3 of the way in, manually focusing as well to make sure that it's absolutely pin sharp. So I'm taking a series of images. I'm not really needing to worry too much about the light because it's pretty constant. The sun isn't being obscured by low clouds moving across it. There's just a bit of wispy high clouds, which actually is making for pretty perfect lighting conditions. Now, you'll hear a lot said by landscape photographers that midday light isn't really very good for landscape photography. That may be the case in June and July, but I would contend that there are still plenty of instances where high, harsh midday light can actually make your images quite interesting, as long as you shoot the right things in the right way. And this is a case in point. I've had really fabulous light all morning, but I wanted this particular time of day because I knew it would throw some shadows from right to left across the path a little bit. And that's quite deliberate. What I want to have is some little areas of contrast in the image, without which it would be quite flat and less interesting. So what I've done is I've waited for the sun to be pretty much at its zenith to take advantage of it. Now clearly this isn't midsummer and it would be a completely different story at that time of year. But as I said, I contend that at that time of year there are subjects which benefit from that lighting when you do want high contrast to make them interesting, so you can still turn it to your advantage and enjoy some landscape photography whatever time of day you happen to be able to get out and about. As I walked down to the lake, I thought I'll just take a quick look at my fishing boat, because I haven't really checked on it for a couple of months. And it occurred to me, it's something that I've actually never photographed. And I'm sure that if I was passing by an old boat that's moored up, I'd probably take a shot of it. So I thought, why not? The first thing was necessary was to clear some of the crap that's grown in and died in front of it, because even though I don't mind a bit of atmosphere, shall we say, you virtually couldn't see the boat, so a bit of groundwork to start with, and a really simple composition. I've got the sun coming in from the left, so it's quite nice, but I wanted the camera quite low because the boat actually isn't really that interesting. So looking into it, it's full of crap and it's up to the gunnels in rainwater anyway. Might not really be of much interest to you from a technical standpoint, but it's one for my album for years to come when I look back fondly on the days when I was a boat owner. Well, I'm willing to bet that the lovely Mrs. G wouldn't have spotted this composition in a million years, because it would have required her to have been walking up the middle of the brook that runs down past our house. What I like about this is these lovely little riffles and the stones that the water cascades down through. I think it'll probably be quite a simple little image, but let's give it a go anyway. Okay, so I'm all set up for this composition. Again, pretty straightforward. I'm really liking the way the low sun is now throwing some shadows along the right-hand bank, which helps to lead your eye up to the house. I'm still using a graduated filter, 0.6 soft grad, because on a bright sunny day like this, it does help to control the sky a little bit. The bulk of the image, the bottom 2/3 of it, are the stream where the water runs around these lovely boulders. I'm shooting at about 1/10 of a second, which gives me exactly the right amount of movement I'm after in the water. In order to achieve that, I need to have my aperture at f8, which is fine. It's not the sharpest point of this lens, but as I've said in previous videos, I don't care. I'll use the tools I have to get the image I want. Perhaps I'll make that my slogan. I really like this composition because I like the old hawthorn tree on the left-hand side and that dry grass, which is really catching the sun. And even though it's really bright, it still kind of borders the frame. Normally on the edges of a frame, you're looking for something perhaps a little darker to pull your eye into the center. But it still forms quite a nice stop line. So I'm quite happy with that. Well, as I said at the outset, a lot of people make a lot of shooting local. I'm really lucky that I've got this sort of environment on my doorstep. If you follow my channel for any time, you'll know that I shoot this lake quite often. And I don't always vlog it, because if I did, you'd soon get pretty bored of it. But there is a lot to be said for getting out with a camera wherever you live and practicing, having a few enjoyable hours, taking some pictures. It really doesn't matter what you shoot. It's all about the practice and the experience, so that then when you are able to get to the epic locations and you get great light, you'll be able to make the most of it. So thank you ever so much for joining me. I think we're going to leave it there for this one. I really appreciate you watching, and if you haven't done it yet, why not subscribe now? Join me next time. Cheers.